The billionaire's missing daughter was hiding in a single dad's house. What he did next broke her father's empire. Ryan Carter didn't own a gun. He didn't own much of anything. Just a cracked phone, a 6-year-old boy asleep down the hall, and a front door that 3 men in black suits were now pounding on at 2 in the morning. Behind him, pressed against the kitchen wall, a woman he'd known for 11 days whispered a name that wasn't hers. Outside, a car engine idled like a warning. Ryan put his hand on the doorknob and understood, with a calm that scared him, that whatever he did in the next 10 seconds would decide everything. Please like and comment the city you're viewing so I know how far my story has come. Watch until the end. You won't believe the ending. The alarm on Ryan Carter's phone went off at 4:17 in the morning, the same as it had every weekday for the last 3 years, and the same as it would every weekday for however long his body held out. He didn't need the alarm anymore. His body woke him before the sound, but he kept it set because the one morning he didn't, he'd overslept by 9 minutes and almost lost the job at the warehouse. And a man with a kid doesn't get to almost lose jobs. He lay on his back for a moment in the dark and stared at the water stain on the ceiling. It was shaped, vaguely, like the state of Florida. He'd never been to Florida. He'd never been anywhere. Then he sat up. The apartment was a 2-bedroom on the ground floor of a tired brick building on Halverson Street, in a part of town nobody visited on purpose. The rent was $820 a month, which was more than it should have been, and less than anywhere else. The heating worked when it felt like working. The kitchen faucet leaked in a slow, steady way that Ryan had learned to ignore, because the landlord had stopped answering his calls in November. He moved through the place without turning on the lights. He knew every board that creaked. He knew where to step so he wouldn't wake the boy. In the bathroom, he looked at himself in the mirror for about 2 seconds and then looked away. 32 years old. Dark circles that didn't go away anymore, not even on the rare weekends he slept in. A cut along his jaw from shaving too fast on Tuesday. His hair was getting long, but a haircut was $18, and $18 was groceries. He splashed cold water on his face and got dressed in the clothes he'd laid out the night before. Gray t-shirt, jeans that were fraying at the right knee, a flannel over it because the warehouse was cold in the mornings until the forklifts got moving. Steel-toed boots, laced tight. At 4:40, he started the coffee. At 4:45, he opened Noah's door a crack. The boy was sprawled sideways across the bed with one leg hanging off and the blanket kicked to the floor. His mouth was open. A stuffed dinosaur, missing one eye, was crushed under his arm. Ryan stood in the doorway for longer than he'd meant to. Noah was 6. Noah had his mother's eyes, which Ryan tried not to think about, and his own stubborn jaw, which he didn't mind thinking about at all. Noah was, in every way that mattered, the reason Ryan got up in the dark. He pulled the blanket back up. Noah didn't stir. In the kitchen, Ryan made 2 sandwiches. One for himself, peanut butter on cheap white bread. One for Noah, peanut butter and a thin layer of strawberry jam, crust cut off because Noah had declared war on crusts in kindergarten and never surrendered. He put Noah's in a blue lunchbox with a fading cartoon dinosaur on it, next to a juice box and an apple that was starting to turn. He wrote a note on a yellow sticky and pressed it to the top of the sandwich. "Have a good day, buddy. I love you. Dad." He wrote one every morning. He'd written more than 1,000 of them. Noah had kept every single one in a shoebox under his bed, which Ryan had discovered by accident 3 weeks ago and which had nearly leveled him in the middle of his own kitchen. At 5:10, Ryan was out the door. The walk to the bus stop was 8 blocks. The city was still dark, and the streetlights buzzed overhead in that tired orange way streetlights do in neighborhoods nobody pays attention to. A stray cat watched him from under a parked car. Somewhere, a dog was barking, and somewhere else, a man was yelling at the dog, and then the yelling stopped and it was just the barking again. Ryan didn't look up at any of it. He walked the way he always walked, head down, hands in his jacket pockets, breathing steady. The warehouse was 22 miles out, past the freeway interchange, in an industrial park that smelled permanently of diesel and hot rubber. Ryan clocked in at 6:02. He was a picker, which meant he pushed a cart through aisles taller than houses and pulled items off shelves for 12 hours a day, 3 days on, 4 days off, then 4 days on, 3 days off. Some weeks the shifts were 12, some weeks they were 14. He didn't complain, because the guy who'd complained last month wasn't there anymore. His supervisor was a thick-shouldered man named Doug, who'd been a Marine and never quite stopped being one. Doug wasn't cruel exactly, just tired in a way that made him short with everyone. He tossed Ryan the scanner without looking up. "You're on aisle 14. Got it. Try not to bleed on anything today." Ryan glanced at the scab on his forearm from a box cutter incident on Monday. "I'll do my best." Doug almost smiled. Not quite. "Go." Ryan went. Aisle 14 was the long one, the one that ran almost the full length of the building, and by 7:15 his shoulders were already burning. He'd done 1,000 of these mornings. He'd do 1,000 more if he had to. There was a rhythm to it, almost a meditation, and he'd learned to like the parts of himself that disappeared inside the work. The picker, the arm, the legs, the scanner beeping. No past, no future, just the next box. At lunch, he sat in the break room with a thermos of black coffee and the peanut butter sandwich and didn't talk to anyone. There was a TV on the wall playing some morning show, the sound off, the captions running. A woman in a bright dress was laughing at something a man in a suit had said. Ryan watched the captions for a while without really reading them. A guy named Marcus sat down across from him. Marcus was about 50, black, built like a retired linebacker, with hands that had been broken and rebroken so many times the knuckles looked like walnuts. He'd been at the warehouse longer than anyone. "You look like hell, Carter." "Thanks, Marcus." "I mean it. You sleeping?" 4 hours, 5 on a good night. Marcus shook his head. "You gotta sleep, man. You can't raise a kid on 4 hours." "I'm raising him on 4 hours just fine." "You're raising him on 4 hours for now. Kid's 6. Wait till he's 12, 13. Wait till he's got questions you don't know how to answer. You're gonna need every hour you can get." Ryan chewed his sandwich. He didn't say anything for a while. Then he said, "Appreciate it, Marcus." "Don't appreciate it. Do something about it." "Yeah." "You say yeah, but you won't." "Probably not." Marcus laughed, a short, surprised laugh, and shook his head again. "At least you're honest." Ryan almost smiled. It was the closest he'd come in 3 days. He got off at 6:30. The bus ride home was 40 minutes with traffic. He stood the whole way because the bus was full and nobody offered him a seat, and he wouldn't have taken one anyway. He was used to standing. His legs didn't know what to do with sitting down at the end of a shift. At 7:15, he picked Noah up from the after-school program at the community center on 9th. The woman who ran it was a small, gray-haired lady named Mrs. Esperanza, who had been running the program since before Ryan was born, and who had, over the last 2 years, become one of the only adults in the world Ryan trusted completely. Noah saw him through the glass door and came running. "Dad! Hey, buddy!" Noah hit him at full speed, and Ryan caught him and lifted him up, and for a second, standing there in the cold doorway of a community center on a Wednesday night, Ryan felt something close to okay. "How was your day?" "Good. I drew a T-Rex, but Mrs. E said I had to leave it here because it was for the wall." "The wall's a big deal, bud. That's like a museum." "Really? Really?" Noah considered this. "Okay, but can I draw you another one at home?" "You can draw me 100. Mrs. Esperanza came over and put a hand on Ryan's arm. She was barely 5 feet tall, but when she looked at you, she looked at you. "He ate the apple today, Ryan." "Hey, that's a win." And he told Sophia that her shoes were cool. He's a ladies' man. Mrs. Esperanza smiled, but the smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "You look thin, mijo." "Are you eating?" "I'm eating." "Eating what?" "Food." "Mijo." "Mrs. E, I promise, I'm fine." She studied him for a long moment. Then she reached into a bag behind her desk and pulled out a Tupperware container and pressed it into his hands. "Take this. It's arroz con pollo. Don't argue. I can't. I said don't argue." Ryan held the container. It was still warm. Something in his chest did a thing he didn't want to examine. "Thank you," he said. "Go home, Ryan. Sleep." "Yes, ma'am." Dinner was the Tupperware split between 2 plates because Noah loved Mrs. Esperanza's cooking more than he loved his own father some days, and Ryan couldn't blame him. They ate at the little fold-out table in the kitchen with the TV on low across the room, some cartoon Noah liked. Ryan wasn't watching it. He was watching Noah. "Dad?" "Yeah?" "Is Grandma coming for my birthday?" Ryan's hand stopped with the fork halfway to his mouth. Noah's birthday was in 3 weeks. Noah's grandmother, Ryan's mother, lived in Arizona and hadn't spoken to Ryan in 4 years, not since the funeral, not since the night at the reception when she'd told him that he had ruined her daughter's life and that the child was all that was left of anything good. She had said it in front of people. She had said it quietly, almost gently, like she was telling him the time. Ryan had not hated her for it. He had understood her. That was the hard part. I don't think so, Bud. Why not? She lives really far away. But you could call her. I know. Are you gonna? Ryan looked at his son. Noah's eyes were huge and serious in the kitchen light. He was holding his fork like a little adult. I'll think about it, Ryan said. Noah nodded, satisfied, and went back to his chicken. Ryan didn't eat any more of his. After Noah was in bed, after the teeth brushing, the book, the second book, because Noah always negotiated a second book, the glass of water, the checking for monsters, the kiss on the forehead, Ryan sat on the couch in the dark with his phone in his hand and stared at his mother's name in his contacts. He didn't call. He'd tried, twice in the last 6 months. The first time she hadn't picked up. The second time she'd picked up, listened to him say, "Hi, Mom," and hung up. He put the phone down. He leaned his head back against the couch. He closed his eyes for what he thought was going to be a minute and opened them at 1:47 in the morning with his neck screaming and a crick in his back that was going to last 3 days. He went to bed. He dreamed about nothing. This was Ryan Carter's life. Not dramatic, not tragic in any way that would have made a movie. Just worn down in that specific American way, where a person goes to work and goes home and goes to work and goes home, and the years slide by like water down a drain, and you look up one day and you're 32, and you haven't had a conversation with an adult that wasn't about logistics in 6 months, and your face in the mirror is a face you barely recognize. He wasn't unhappy. That was the strangest part. He wasn't unhappy because unhappy required enough energy to feel. He was just reduced, like a pot of something left on the stove too long, boiled down to the thick part at the bottom. To the cashier at the corner store, he was the quiet guy who bought milk and bread. To the bus driver, he was a nod in the morning and a nod in the evening. To Doug at the warehouse, he was a reliable back. To his landlord, he was rent on the first. To his mother, he was a thing she couldn't look at. To Noah, he was the whole world. And to everyone else, he wasn't anything. He wasn't even there. Thursday was like Wednesday. Friday was like Thursday. The weekend came and Ryan didn't work, and he and Noah went to the park on Saturday even though it was cold, and Noah climbed the jungle gym like a small angry monkey and fell off once and cried for about 12 seconds and then demanded to climb back up, and Ryan watched him and thought, okay, we're okay, the way he thought it several times a day. Sunday night, he made spaghetti. He washed Noah's hair in the tub. He read him a book about a rabbit who was afraid of the dark, and Noah fell asleep on the second to last page, and Ryan sat on the edge of the bed for a while just looking at him in the yellow glow of the nightlight. Then he went to the kitchen and did dishes and folded a load of laundry and fell asleep on the couch with his boots still on. Monday started again. It was on Tuesday, the 12th of the month, at just past 9 in the evening, that the knock came. Ryan had just come out of Noah's room. He had a dish towel over his shoulder. He was in sweatpants and a gray t-shirt that had a hole near the collar. The TV was on low, a basketball game he wasn't watching. He was about to sit down and do nothing for 45 minutes before he collapsed. The knock was 3 soft taps. Not urgent, not loud, but the sound of it cut through the apartment in a way that made him stop moving. Nobody knocked on his door. Nobody. His landlord called. Mrs. Esperanza called. The mailman left packages on the stoop. In 3 years in this apartment, the only people who had ever knocked on his door were Jehovah's Witnesses and the kid from 3B who'd been locked out of his own place and needed to use the phone. Ryan stood still and listened. 3 more taps. A little slower this time, almost apologetic. He walked to the door. He didn't look through the peephole first, which was a thing he would think about later. He just put his hand on the knob and pulled. The woman standing in the hallway was small. That was the first thing he registered. She was maybe 5'4", thin in a way that didn't look healthy, wearing a dark coat that was too nice for the neighborhood. Her hair was brown and long and pulled back into a loose knot at the base of her neck. Her skin was pale. She was holding a leather bag against her chest with both hands, like she was hiding behind it. Her eyes were the other thing. Her eyes were sharp, brown, alert in a way that didn't match the rest of her. "Hi," she said. Ryan didn't answer. He just waited. "I'm sorry to bother you. My name is Emily. I'm looking for a place to stay." Ryan looked at her. Then he looked past her down the hallway. It was empty. The fluorescent light at the end was flickering the way it had been flickering for 3 weeks. "This isn't a hotel," he said. "I know. There's a place on 5th, 2 blocks. It's cheap." I can't go there." Something in the way she said it, something in the way her fingers tightened on the strap of the bag. Ryan felt his shoulders set. "Ma'am, I don't know you." "I know." "Why are you knocking on my door?" She hesitated. Her eyes flickered past him into the apartment. He followed her look. There was a crayon drawing of a T-Rex taped to the fridge. There was a pair of small blue sneakers by the door. "A woman at the bus station told me this building sometimes rents rooms," she said. She said to ask for Carter, on the 1st floor. Ryan didn't know any woman at the bus station. He didn't rent rooms. The whole thing didn't make sense, and he was about to say so, was about to close the door and tell her, "I'm sorry, ma'am. You've got the wrong place," when a small voice came from behind him. "Dad?" Ryan closed his eyes for a half-second. "Bud, go back to bed." "Who's that?" "Nobody. Go to bed." But Noah was already at his hip, peering around him at the woman in the hallway. His hair was sticking up on one side. He was holding the one-eyed dinosaur. The woman, Emily, looked down at Noah. And something happened to her face. It wasn't dramatic. It was small. It was the kind of thing Ryan had learned to watch for over the years. The micro shift in a stranger's expression when they saw a kid, and either softened or didn't. She softened. "Hi," she said to Noah. Her voice was different when she said it. Lower, careful. "Hi," Noah said. "What's your dinosaur's name?" "Rex." "That's a good name." "He's missing an eye." "I can see that." "He's still cool, though." "He's very cool." Noah looked up at Ryan, then back at Emily, then up at Ryan again. "Dad, is she staying?" "Noah, she can have my bed." "Noah." Noah looked at his father with the full, impossible seriousness of a 6-year-old, and Ryan felt something give somewhere under his ribs, in a place he thought had calcified over a long time ago. He looked at Emily. Emily was looking at Noah like she was trying very hard not to cry. "How many days?" Ryan said. She blinked up at him. 3, she said. "Maybe 4. I can pay." "How much?" She fumbled in the bag and pulled out a roll of cash that made Ryan's stomach tighten. It was more money than he'd seen in one place in a long time. She peeled off $200 bills without looking at them and held them out. "Is that enough?" Ryan didn't take the money. He looked at her face. "Are you in trouble?" She didn't answer. "Ma'am, are you in trouble? I'm not going to bring trouble to your house." "That's not what I asked." She looked at him. Her eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying. She had the look of someone who had decided a long time ago that she wasn't going to cry in front of strangers. "I'm just tired," she said. "I just need a few days." Ryan stood there in the doorway of his apartment with his son pressed against his leg, and a stranger offering him $200, and every sensible part of his brain was telling him, "Close the door, close the door, close the door." Noah's small hand slipped into his. Ryan looked down. Noah looked up. "Dad," Noah whispered. She looked sad. And that was the thing. That was the thing that Ryan Carter, who had mastered survival, who had spent 3 years reducing himself to a series of mornings and shifts and sandwiches, who had forgotten what his own laugh sounded like, could not, in the end, get past. She looked sad. Ryan stepped back from the door. 3 days, he said. "The couch. You don't leave my son alone with you. You don't touch anything that isn't yours. If I see one thing I don't like, you're out. Understood?" "Understood." "Keep your money. Tonight. We can talk about it tomorrow." Emily Shaw stepped into Ryan Carter's apartment with a leather bag held against her chest, and the door closed behind her, and she stood in the small, tired living room looking at a crayon drawing of a T-Rex on the refrigerator, and for the first time in a very long time, something in her face came unclenched. Noah tugged her coat sleeve. "Do you want to meet Rex?" "Yeah," she said. "I'd like that." Ryan watched them from the doorway of the kitchen. His son was leading a strange woman by the hand toward his bedroom to introduce her to a stuffed dinosaur. His son, who had known this woman for 90 seconds, was already treating her like she was a member of the household. Ryan thought about the roll of cash in her bag. He thought about the quality of her coat. He thought about the way her hands had shaken when she held out the money, and how they hadn't shaken at all when she looked at Noah. He thought, "What did I just do?" And then Noah laughed from the bedroom, a real belly laugh, the kind Ryan hadn't heard from him in weeks. And Ryan thought, oh no. That first night, Ryan didn't sleep. He lay on his back on the couch. He'd given Emily his bed over her protests because she was a guest, even if she was a weird one, and a guest doesn't sleep on a couch with a broken spring. And he stared at the ceiling and listened to the apartment. He could hear Noah breathing, soft and steady, through the thin wall. He could hear the refrigerator humming. He could hear just barely the sound of the woman in his bedroom turning over. He thought about his shift in the morning, 4:17 alarm, peanut butter sandwich, bus at 5:10. He thought about the fact that he had, in the space of 4 minutes, let a complete stranger into the one place in the world that was his. He thought about his son's small hand slipping into his. She looked sad. Around 2 in the morning, he heard her get up. Soft footsteps. The bathroom door, the sink running, then the footsteps stopping in the hallway, just outside the living room. He didn't move. He kept his eyes closed. For a long moment, she stood there. He could feel her looking at him. He could feel the weight of her attention in the dark room like a hand pressed flat against his chest. Then the footsteps went back to the bedroom, and the door closed. Ryan opened his eyes. "Who the hell are you?" he thought. Outside, a car drove by on Halverson Street. Its headlights slid across the ceiling and were gone. Ryan didn't know yet about the men who would come 11 days from now. He didn't know about the phone call she would make from his kitchen at 4 in the morning on Saturday. He didn't know about the name she hadn't told him, or the empire she was running from, or the way his quiet life was about to be torn open like an envelope. He only knew this. For the first time in 3 years, someone else was breathing in his apartment who wasn't his son. And for the first time in 3 years, Ryan Carter was afraid. Not of her, of what he might be about to feel. He closed his eyes and didn't sleep. And at 4:17, the alarm went off, and he got up and made 2 sandwiches. And then, after a pause, he made a third. The third sandwich sat on the counter in a plastic baggie next to Noah's blue lunchbox. And Ryan looked at it for a long time before he left for the bus. He didn't know why he'd made it. That wasn't true. He knew why. He just didn't want to sit with the reason. He wrote a note on a yellow sticky and pressed it to the top of the baggie. "There's coffee in the pot. The milk in the fridge is okay. The one on the counter is bad. Don't ask. Noah gets picked up from Mrs. E's at 7:15 if I'm late. Don't open the door for anyone. R." He stared at the note for another second. Then he added, underneath, "The sandwich is for you." He put his boots on and left. On the bus, with his forehead against the cold window and his eyes mostly closed, he kept turning it over. He had left a woman he didn't know in his apartment with his sleeping child. He had written her a note. He had made her a sandwich. He had signed it R, like they knew each other. He thought, "You are an idiot, Ryan Carter." He thought, "If something happens to him because of this, you will not survive it." He thought about turning around at the next stop and going home and telling her to get out. He didn't. By the time he got to the warehouse, he'd convinced himself he was being paranoid, which didn't make him feel better because he knew he wasn't being paranoid. He was just being tired. Tired and paranoid wasn't a contradiction. They lived in the same house most days. He clocked in. He grabbed the scanner. Doug looked him up and down. "You look worse than yesterday." "Thanks, Doug. You sleeping?" "No." "You want to go home?" "No." Doug grunted. "Aisle 9 today." Ryan went to aisle 9. He worked through the morning in a kind of fog. The boxes moved. The scanner beeped. His body did what it had been trained to do, and his brain ran underneath it on a separate track, chewing on the same 4 questions over and over. Who was she? Where had she come from? Why his door? And the fourth one, the one that wouldn't leave him alone. Why did I let her in? Because of Noah. That was the easy answer. That was the one he wanted to believe. But it wasn't the whole answer, and he knew it. And by the time lunch came, he was angry at himself in a low, steady way that didn't have anywhere to go. Marcus sat down across from him in the break room and looked at him. Nope. Nope what? Nope, whatever this is, nope. You look like a man who did something stupid. Ryan almost laughed. It came out as a breath through his nose. Maybe I did. Yeah, maybe. You want to tell me? No. Is it a woman? Ryan didn't answer. Marcus leaned back in his chair. Oh, brother. It's not like that. Uh-huh. It isn't. Carter, I have been married 31 years. I know two things in this life. I know forklifts, and I know when a man is lying to himself about a woman. You are lying to yourself about a woman. She's a stranger. Worse. She showed up at my door last night looking for a place to stay. Noah was there. Ryan shook his head. He wanted her to stay. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, very carefully, Ryan, I know. Ryan, you cannot let a strange woman. I know, Marcus. Sleep in your house with your kid. I know. Marcus looked at him for a long time. Then he said, Is she still there? Probably. Probably? I don't know. I told her 3 days. 3 days. Yeah. Marcus let out a long breath. He rubbed his forehead with the heel of his hand. Then he said, Listen to me. When you get home tonight, you watch her. You watch her close. If anything feels wrong, anything, you grab that boy and you walk out of there. You hear me? I hear you. Don't be a hero, Carter. Heroes die. I'm not a hero. You letting a stranger sleep near your kid sure looks like somebody trying to be one. Ryan didn't have an answer for that. Marcus stood up, clapped him once on the shoulder, hard enough to leave a bruise, and walked away. Bob. He got home at 7:40. He'd picked up Noah at 7:15 from Mrs. Esperanza, who had looked at his face and said, Mijo, what's wrong? And Ryan had said nothing, and she had said liar, and given him another Tupperware container and told him to go home. On the walk back, Noah had held his hand and chattered about a kid named Theo who had eaten a crayon on a dare. Ryan had listened the way he always listened, with the top half of his attention, and the bottom half of him had been walking ahead to his own front door, imagining what he would find. What he found was this. The apartment was clean. Not deep clean, not clean in some unsettling way, but the counter had been wiped down. The dishes in the sink from the morning were washed and stacked in the drying rack, and the blanket he had left wadded on the couch was folded in a neat square on the armrest. The smell that hit him when he opened the door wasn't the stale smell of his apartment. It was food, real food, something with onions, something. Emily was at the stove. She was wearing one of his flannels, the blue one, the one he'd left hanging on the back of a chair, over her own clothes. Her hair was up. She was stirring something in a pan with a wooden spoon, and when she heard the door, she turned. Her face did the small thing again when she saw Noah, the unclench. Hi, she said. Hi, Noah said, and walked straight past his father into the kitchen. What are you making? Chicken and rice. Nothing fancy? I hope that's okay. I like chicken, Noah said. And I like rice, but not if they're touching. I like them separate. I can do that. 2 plates? 2 plates. Noah nodded with great seriousness and climbed up onto his chair at the fold-out table. Ryan stood in the doorway. He had not taken his coat off. Emily looked at him over Noah's head. She waited. Ryan closed the door behind him. He took his coat off. He hung it on the hook. You didn't have to cook, he said. I know. Where'd the food come from? I walked to the store on 8th. You walked. I was careful. How much did you... I used my money. He didn't know what to say to that. He went to the sink and washed his hands. He washed them longer than he needed to. Behind him, Emily said quietly, I'm sorry. If I overstepped, I wanted to do something. It's fine. It's not fine because you're mad. I'm not mad. You're something. He turned around and dried his hands on the dish towel. She was looking at him with those sharp brown eyes again, and he had the uncomfortable feeling, for the second time in 2 days, that she was seeing more of him than he wanted to be seen. "I'm tired," he said. "That's what I am. That's all I am most days. Don't take it personal." "Okay. The sandwich?" "I ate it." "Good. Thank you." "You're welcome." They looked at each other across his kitchen, and something in the room settled, not all the way, but a little. Noah, at the table, said, "Are you two in a fight?" "Nobody." "It sounds like a fight." "It's not a fight." "Okay." Emily turned back to the pan. Ryan sat down at the table across from his son and put his elbows on it and rubbed his eyes. "Long day?" Noah asked. "Long day, bud." "I drew another T-Rex." "Yeah? Do you want to see it?" "After dinner." "Okay. Ma pichette." They ate. Emily put Noah's chicken on one side of his plate and his rice on the other, with a visible strip of bare plate between them, like a demilitarized zone, and Noah inspected it, approved it, and attacked it. Ryan watched him eat in a way he hadn't eaten in a while. With appetite, with enthusiasm, with his mouth open, talking about Theo and the crayon, and a girl named Sophia who had told him she liked his hair. Ryan ate slowly. The food was good. It was better than good. It was the kind of food somebody made who knew what they were doing, and the small part of his brain that had been filing away details since last night filed that one away too. She can cook. Not warehouse cook, not peanut butter sandwich cook, real cook. After dinner, Noah dragged Emily into his room to show her the T-Rex, and Ryan did the dishes and listened through the wall to his son explaining, in great detail, the difference between a T-Rex and a Giganotosaurus. Emily was asking good questions, not condescending questions, actual questions, like she wanted to know. Ryan scrubbed a pan that didn't need that much scrubbing. When Noah was in bed, at 9, late, because they had gotten into it with the dinosaur book, Ryan came out into the living room and found Emily sitting on the couch with her knees pulled up, hands wrapped around a mug of tea she had made for herself from a box Ryan hadn't known he owned. She looked up when he came in. "He's a really good kid." "Yeah. He's polite. When he feels like it. He's 6. "He's 6. She smiled. It was a small smile, careful, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to use it in this room. Ryan sat down on the armchair across from the couch. He leaned forward with his elbows on his knees. He looked at her. "Okay," he said. "I think we need to talk." The smile went away. "Okay." "I don't want to do it with him awake." "Okay." "I don't want details I don't need. I don't want to be in your business. But I have a kid in this apartment, and you showed up at my door last night with a roll of hundreds and a coat that costs more than my rent, and I need something." Emily looked into her tea for a long moment. The mug was white with a chip on the rim. She ran her thumb along the chip. "My name is Emily," she said. "That part is true." "Last name?" She hesitated. "I'm not going to give that to you, not tonight, I'm sorry." "Are you in trouble with the law?" "No." "You sure?" "I'm sure." "Drugs?" "No." "A man?" She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "It's complicated. It's not a boyfriend. It's not what you're thinking, but there are people who'd like to find me, and I don't want to be found." "For how long?" "I don't know. That's not going to work for me." "I know." 3 days, I said. "I know. After 3 days, you need to go somewhere that isn't here. I'm not running I don't know what I'm saying. I'm not running a hideout, Emily. I'm running a house with one kid in it, and the kid thinks you hung the moon already, which is its own problem." She looked up. "He does?" Don't smile about that. That's not a good thing for you to smile about." "Sorry. I'm serious. He's 6. He decides things about people fast, and then he's in. And when somebody leaves, it sticks with him. It stuck with him for a long time last time. So when you go, and you are going, Emily, in 3 days, you go clean. You don't promise to come back. You don't give him a phone number. You don't tell him you're his friend forever. You say goodbye and you go. Understood?" Her eyes were wet. "Understood." "Okay." "Ryan." "Yeah." "Can I ask you something?" "You can ask." "Who was last time?" Ryan leaned back in the chair. He closed his eyes for a second. Then he opened them. His mother. Oh, she died 3 years ago. Noah was 3. He doesn't remember her, not really. He has pictures. He calls her Mama in the frame. Ryan. Don't. It's been a long time. We're okay. I'm sorry. It's been a long time, he said again, and he wasn't sure who he was telling. Emily held her tea and didn't say anything, and that, more than anything she could have said, made Ryan relax a little in the chair. The next day was Wednesday. Ryan worked. Emily stayed at the apartment. He didn't ask her what she did with her day. She didn't tell him. When he came home, the apartment was clean again, and there was a stew on the stove, and Noah was drawing at the kitchen table while Emily sat across from him reading a paperback book she'd gotten somewhere. Thursday was the same. Friday. Ryan started, without meaning to look forward to coming home. He noticed himself doing it on the bus Friday evening and made himself stop, and he couldn't stop. Noah was lit up from the inside. Ryan watched him talk at dinner and talk during bath time and talk while Emily read to him, and he realized, with a quiet kind of horror, that his son had been lonely. Not unhappy, not neglected, but lonely. In that specific way a child is lonely when his whole world is one exhausted adult who loves him but has nothing left over to play with. And Emily played. She played Go Fish, which Noah was bad at. She played a game Noah invented on the spot involving the stuffed dinosaur and a sock puppet, which was also a game Noah was bad at because he kept changing the rules. She colored with him. She asked him about his day in a way that was not a performance. She was, Ryan realized on Friday night, standing in the hallway watching her help Noah brush his teeth, a natural with kids. Not sentimental about it, not cooing, just steady, present. He stood there and he thought, who the hell raised you? And then he thought, don't ask. Saturday morning, Ryan was off. He got up late, which for him meant 6:30, and came out into the kitchen in sweatpants and a t-shirt to find Emily already at the table with a mug of coffee and his son eating cereal next to her. The TV was on low, cartoons. Noah had his feet tucked up under him. He was wearing the pajamas with the planets on them. Morning, Emily said. Morning? Coffee's fresh? Thanks. He poured a cup. He sat down at the table. He sat down in the third chair, the one nobody had sat in for 3 years, because the other 2 were taken. He didn't think about the fact that he had sat down in the third chair until an hour later, and when he did, he had to go into the bathroom and close the door and put his hands on the sink for a while. He came out and Emily was on the floor with Noah, building something out of Legos that Ryan had bought secondhand at a yard sale 2 summers ago. They were having an argument about whether the thing they were building was a spaceship or a submarine. Noah was insisting it was both. Emily was saying that was structurally impossible. Noah was saying, nuh-uh. Ryan stood in the kitchen and watched them through the doorway, and a thought came to him that he couldn't outrun. I want this. It came to him clean, without sentiment, without music. I want this. And right behind it, and I can't have it, because she was leaving, tomorrow. That was the deal. 3 days, and they were on day, he counted, 4. He'd let it slide. He'd told himself he'd tell her tonight, this afternoon, after lunch, after the Legos, after. He put his coffee cup down. Emily? She looked up. Can I talk to you? Her face changed. She knew. Yeah. He tilted his head toward the bedroom. She stood up. She ruffled Noah's hair and said, You keep building. Don't you dare change the rules while I'm gone. I'm not going to change the rules. Uh-huh. She followed Ryan down the hall. He closed the bedroom door behind them. He didn't sit down. She didn't either. They stood facing each other in the small room, with the unmade bed between them and the gray morning light coming through the one window. It's Saturday, Ryan said. I know. It's been 4 days. I know. You said 3. I know. Emily, I'll go. I'm not saying you have to go today. You are, though. I'm saying we need to talk about it. We just did. She was looking at him with her chin up. She was holding her hands at her sides, clenched. Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. He sat down on the edge of the bed. Sit down, he said. I don't want to sit down. Sit down, Emily. She sat down, on the other side of the bed, as far from him as she could get without sitting on the floor. I don't know what to do with you, he said. You don't have to do anything with me. That's not what I mean. Then what do you mean? I mean, he stopped. He started again. I mean, my kid is in the other room building a Lego submarine spaceship with the woman who showed up at my door 5 days ago, and when you go, he is going to be wrecked. He's going to cry for a week. He's going to ask me every day for a month when you're coming back, and I don't have an answer that doesn't make it worse. That's what I mean. Emily was looking at her hands. I don't want to wreck him. I know you don't. I didn't mean for it to be... I know. I'll go today. Emily, stop. She stopped. Ryan put his hands over his face. He pressed the heels of his palms into his eye sockets. I need to know what I'm doing, he said from behind his hands. Who's coming, when they're coming, what they want, whether they're going to show up at my door with my kid inside. I need to know, Emily. I'm asking one time. She didn't answer. He dropped his hands. He looked at her. She was crying, not loud, not theatrical, just leaking, sitting there on the edge of his bed with her hands in her lap and tears going down her face, and her shoulders very, very still. Please, Ryan said, softer. My father, she said. Your father. My father is a very powerful man. Okay. He has people. He's had people my whole life. I've had a driver since I was 7. I've had a security detail. I've never been alone. I've never walked into a grocery store by myself. I've never ridden a bus. I rode a bus, Ryan, 4 days ago. It was the first bus I've ever been on in my life. I was 31 years old on my first bus. Emily. I'm supposed to be getting married in 6 weeks. Ryan didn't move. To who? To the son of another man my father does business with. A merger. That's what it is. They call it a merger. I've known him since I was 19. He's not cruel. He's not anybody. He's a suit. He's a suit my father picked. Your father knows you ran. My father has known for 96 hours. They've been looking. They've got people. Private. Very good. They don't involve police. They don't make the news. They just find me. Why my door, Emily? I told you. A woman at the bus station. I don't buy that. She looked at him. I don't buy that, Ryan said again. Why my door? This building, this apartment. Don't lie to me. Her mouth opened. It closed. She looked at her hands. I saw you, she said. What? 2 weeks ago. I saw you. I was at a charity event. It was at a hotel downtown. 100 people, black tie, the whole thing. I went outside for air. I stood on the sidewalk for 10 minutes. You walked past me. You were carrying your son. He was asleep on your shoulder. You'd been at the community center, I think. You had a paper bag from a pharmacy under your arm. You were crossing the street. I watched you go 3 blocks. I watched you until you turned the corner. Ryan stared at her. Emily, I don't know why. I watched you. And when I decided to run, and I decided 4 days ago, Ryan, 4 days, I didn't plan this. I was at the bus station and I thought, I need somewhere nobody would look. I need somewhere nobody would ever think to look. And I thought about you. I thought about the man with the boy on his shoulder. I thought, that's a house. I didn't know your name. I didn't know your street. I got off the bus in this neighborhood because I thought I'd seen you walk here. I asked a woman at a bodega if she knew a man with a young son. She pointed at this building. She told me to ask for Carter. Ryan sat on the edge of his bed and didn't speak for a long time. Emily kept her eyes on her hands. Finally, he said, You followed me. Not followed. I saw you once. That's all. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ryan. I'm so sorry. I know how that sounds. It sounds insane. I know. It sounds... Emily, that's not... You don't do that. You don't pick a stranger off the street and decide that's where I'm going to hide from my family. You don't do that to people. I know. What if I'd been a bad man? You weren't. You didn't know that. I knew. How? You were carrying him like he was made of glass, she said. Her voice cracked on the last word. You were carrying him like he was made of glass, and you were the only one in the world who knew it. Ryan put his head in his hands. The bedroom was very quiet. In the living room, Noah laughed at something on the TV. The cartoon music played. Outside on the street, a car alarm went off and stopped. I'll go today, Emily said. I'll go this afternoon. I'll leave money for the trouble. I'll tell Noah I have to visit a friend. I won't promise him anything. I'll go clean. I'll go, and you'll never have to think about me again. Ryan didn't lift his head. Where will you go? I don't know. You don't know. I'll figure it out. With what money? I have enough. They'll find you. Maybe. When they find you, I know. You'll go back and marry the suit. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. Maybe I'll run again. Maybe this time I'll make it farther. I don't have this figured out, Ryan. I have 4 days of figuring out. That's all I've got. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I brought this to your door. I'm sorry I picked you. I was looking for somewhere to breathe, and I thought maybe if I could just have a week, just 1 week, of being nobody, I could figure out how to be a person. Ryan lifted his head. Emily. Yeah, stay. She blinked. What? Don't go today? Stay. Ryan, I'm not saying forever. I'm not saying a month. I'm saying another few days. A week. Figure out where you're actually going. Make a plan that isn't get on a bus and pray. I'll help you. I'm not a smart man, but I can read a map and I can buy you a bus ticket under a different name. You stay that long, and then you go somewhere real. You go somewhere you can be a person for longer than a week. Ryan, if they come here, then they come here. They're not like regular people. They're not police. They don't knock. Then we'll figure it out. Ryan, I have a son in there who I love more than my own life. I know what I'm saying. Why? Why what? Why are you doing this? He looked at her for a long time. Then he said, because you picked me. Because you stood on a sidewalk and watched a stranger carry his kid home and you saw something in it and you thought that's a house. Because in 3 years, Emily, 3 years, nobody has looked at me like I was a house. Nobody. Not one person. Not at the grocery store, not on the bus, not at work, not anywhere. I've been a ghost. I've been a ghost in my own life, and you walked up to my door and looked at me like I was visible. He stopped. He swallowed. His throat hurt. Don't make me be a ghost again yet, he said. That's all. That's all I'm asking. Well, don't make me be a ghost again yet. Emily looked at him. Her tears were gone. Her eyes were wide and bright, and something had moved behind them, something that had been locked up somewhere very far inside her, some door that had been closed a long time. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Okay, Ryan. They sat there on opposite sides of the bed, not touching, not moving. And in the living room, Noah shouted, Guys, I fixed it! It's a submarine spaceship. It works. Come look. Emily laughed. A real laugh. It came out of her like something surprised her. Ryan wiped his face with the back of his hand. Coming, bud, he called. They got up. They went to look at the submarine spaceship. The next 6 days were the strangest days of Ryan Carter's life. He went to work. Came home. He ate dinners at a table with 3 people. Emily slept in his bed, and he slept on the couch, and neither of them mentioned it, and neither of them changed it. Noah, meanwhile, had decided, with the total commitment of a 6-year-old, that Emily was a permanent feature of the apartment. He started reserving a chair for her at breakfast. He started calling the armchair in the living room Emily's chair. He started telling his friends at the community center that there was a lady at his house who made good rice and who could read the dinosaur book in different voices. Ryan watched all of this and didn't say anything. He watched Emily too. He watched her in a way he tried not to make obvious. He watched the way she washed a dish, carefully, like she was learning. He watched the way she opened a can, clumsily, for the first 2 cans, and then, by the third, competent. He watched her pay for something at the bodega down the street with cash she had counted 3 times before leaving the house. She had never been alone. She had said that, and he hadn't entirely believed her. And now, watching her relearn every small piece of being a regular person, he believed her. On the Thursday, A full week, and a day after she had first knocked on his door, he came home from work to find her sitting on the floor of the living room with her back against the couch, crying. Noah wasn't home yet. It was only 6. Ryan had gotten off early because Doug had sent him home for falling asleep standing up. "Hey," he said, dropping his bag by the door. "Hey, what happened?" She shook her head. "Emily, nothing happened." "Something happened." "Nothing happened, Ryan. That's the problem. I made tea. I sat down. I read a chapter of the book. Nothing happened. All day. Nothing happened. And I sat here and I thought, this is the first day of my life that nothing has happened. Nobody told me to be anywhere. Nobody scheduled me. Nobody put a dress on me. I drank a cup of tea for 45 minutes. I didn't check my phone. I don't have a phone. She broke off. She put her face in her hands. Ryan stood there with his coat still on. "I don't know how to be this," she said, muffled. "I don't know how to be a person who drinks tea. I don't know how to be a person who doesn't have a schedule. I'm 31 years old and I don't know how to be." He walked across the room. He sat down on the floor next to her. Not touching, just next to her. His back against the couch. His legs stretched out, his boots on the rug. "Nobody knows how to be," he said, after a while. "That's not true. It's true, Emily. Nobody knows how. Everybody's just doing it, day to day. You drink a cup of tea, then you drink another one. Then you go to bed, you wake up, you drink another one. That's it. That's all any of us have got." She didn't answer. She was still crying, but quieter now. Ryan looked at the ceiling. The water stain was still shaped like Florida. "When his mother died," he said, and he didn't know why he was saying it, except that the room was quiet and her shoulders were shaking against his arm and there was nowhere else to look. "When his mother died, I didn't know how to be either. I didn't know how to make breakfast. I didn't know how to do the laundry. I didn't know what size diapers he wore. She'd just changed him up a size the week before and I didn't know. I bought the wrong ones 3 times. I sat in the parking lot of the store the 3rd time and I just sat there. I sat there for an hour. I thought, I can't do this. I thought, he's going to have to go somewhere else. Somebody else is going to have to do this." "What did you do?" "I drove home. I put the wrong diapers on him. I figured it out the next day." "Ryan, you drink a cup of tea, Emily, then you drink another one." She leaned her head against his shoulder. He didn't move. He didn't say anything. He just let her and watched the water stain and tried not to think about what his heart was doing, which was the stupidest thing his heart had done in a long time. That night, after Noah was in bed, Emily came out into the living room and stood in the doorway in the flannel shirt, his flannel shirt, and a pair of leggings with her hair down. "Ryan." "Yeah." "I need to tell you my last name." He turned. He looked at her. "Okay. It's Shaw. Shaw. My father's Gregory Shaw." The name went through him like a stone dropping into cold water. Ryan didn't know about a lot of things, but he read the paper sometimes, and he watched the news while he ate his dinner, and Gregory Shaw was a name that had been in the paper and on the news for most of Ryan's adult life. Real estate, media, some kind of shipping, an empire, the kind of empire that had its own floors in glass buildings downtown, the kind of empire that had its name on hospitals and university buildings, and made Ryan's whole neighborhood look, by comparison, like a different country. He sat down on the couch. He put his hands on his knees. "Okay," he said. "Okay? What do you want me to say?" "I don't know, something." "Emily." "Yes." "You should have told me." "I know. Your father's people are looking. They've been looking for 11 days now." 11 days? It's Thursday. It's Thursday. He sat there. She stood in the doorway. "They won't find me," she said, quietly, like she was trying to believe it. "They'll find you." "Maybe not." "Emily, a man like that, with his money, in a city this size, with my face on some camera from the grocery store on 8th because you went there on Tuesday, they'll find you." She didn't argue. "How long?" he asked. "I don't know." "Give me a number." "A week, maybe less." "A week, maybe less." He nodded. He nodded for a long time. Then he stood up. He walked past her down the hall and stood in the doorway of Noah's room. His son was asleep on his side with the blanket pulled up to his nose and the one-eyed dinosaur wedged under his chin. Ryan watched him breathe for a while. When he came back to the living room, Emily was still standing where he'd left her. She had her arms wrapped around herself. "We have a week," he said. "Maybe." "Then we have a week. We're going to use it." "Use it how?" "We're going to figure out where you go. Really go. Not a bus ticket and hope. Somewhere real. Somewhere they can't, or at least somewhere they'll have a hell of a time. You have cash?" "Some." "How much?" "About 9,000. "Okay." "Okay?" "It's not much, but it's something. We'll stretch it. Tomorrow we start." "Ryan." "What?" "Why are you still helping me?" He looked at her. He was standing in the middle of his own living room in a t-shirt with a hole in the collar, in sweatpants, barefoot, in an apartment that cost $820 a month, across from the daughter of one of the most powerful men in the country. "I don't know," he said. "Maybe I'm stupid." "You're not stupid." "Maybe I am." "Ryan." "Go to bed, Emily." "Ryan, Go to bed." She looked at him for a long moment, then she nodded. She turned. She walked down the hall. At the door of his bedroom, she stopped. "Ryan?" "Yeah." "Thank you." He didn't answer. She closed the door. Ryan sat down on the couch. He put his head in his hands. He sat there for a long time, in the dark, listening to the refrigerator hum and the steady breathing of his son through the wall. And he thought about Gregory Shaw, and he thought about 11 days, and he thought about a woman he barely knew sleeping in his bed. And he thought, what are you doing, Ryan Carter? What in the hell are you doing? Somewhere far across the city, in a glass building Ryan had never been inside, a man in a dark suit was tapping a photograph on a polished table with the edge of a black fountain pen. The photograph was grainy. It had been pulled from a security camera at a bodega on 8th Street. The woman in the photo had her head down, her hair tucked into a coat that was a little too nice for the neighborhood. In the background of the photo, almost out of frame, there was the edge of a man's shoulder, a flannel, a hand on a child's back. The man in the dark suit looked at the photograph for a long time. Then he picked up his phone. "Found her," he said. The phone call at the glass building took 40 seconds. The man in the dark suit listened more than he spoke. He nodded twice. He wrote an address on the corner of the photograph in small, neat handwriting. He said, "Tonight, no earlier than 1, no later than 3. 3 vehicles, 4 men. You do not identify yourselves. You do not enter the premises unless she refuses to come." He said, "The child and the father are not our concern unless they become our concern." He said, "Do not alarm her. She is to come willingly, if possible." He ended the call. He looked at the photograph for another minute. Then he picked up a second phone, a different phone, and made a second call. "Mr. Shaw," he said. "We have her." Across the city, in an apartment on Halverson Street, Ryan Carter was already awake. He didn't know why. He had gone to bed at 11, on the couch, with his phone charging on the floor and his boots lined up against the wall. He had slept for maybe an hour. Then his eyes had come open in the dark, and he had lain there listening to the apartment, and whatever had woken him, he couldn't name it. The refrigerator hummed. The heat clicked on and off. Through the wall, Noah's breathing was soft and even. He sat up. He put his feet on the floor. He stood. He walked to the window and looked out. Halverson Street at 1 in the morning was the same as Halverson Street at any hour. The streetlights, the cracked pavement, a stray cat crossing in the far pool of light. Nothing moved. Ryan watched for a long time anyway. When he turned away from the window, Emily was standing in the hallway. She was in the flannel shirt. Her hair was loose. Her feet were bare on the cold floor. She had her arms wrapped around herself, and her face in the dim light looked very young and very tired. "I can't sleep," she said. "Yeah." "Something's wrong." "Yeah." They looked at each other across the dark living room. "It's probably nothing," Emily said. "Probably." Neither of them moved. Then Ryan said quietly, "Get dressed." "Ryan." "Get dressed, Emily." She went. He went to Noah's room. He sat on the edge of the bed and put his hand on his son's back and felt the small shape of his ribs moving, and he didn't wake him, not yet. He just sat there. He let himself have 20 seconds of being a father who was not about to do something frightening. Then he shook Noah's shoulder. Bud. Buddy, wake up, just for a minute. Noah opened his eyes. They were unfocused and small. Dad? Hey, I need you to put your shoes on, over your pajamas. Why? Just in case, Bud. It might be nothing. Noah, to his credit, did not argue. Noah, who argued about crusts and about bedtime and about the precise temperature of bathwater, did not argue about this. He sat up. He rubbed his eyes. He slid off the bed and pushed his feet into his small blue sneakers without being told to double knot them. He looked up at his father. Is it a fire? No, Bud. Are we okay? We're okay. Is Emily okay? Ryan's throat closed for a second. We're all okay, he said. Come on. He picked the boy up. Noah was heavy now, heavier than he'd been last year, heavier than he'd been 3 months ago. Ryan felt every pound of him against his shoulder. He carried him out into the hallway. Emily was there, in jeans and a dark coat, her hair pulled back. She had the leather bag over her shoulder. Her face was very pale. Car, Ryan said. You don't have a car. Mrs. Esperanza has a car, 2 blocks. She keeps a spare key under the planter. I've watered her plants when she's gone. I know the key. You're going to steal her car. I'm going to borrow her car. I'll call her from the road. Ryan, Emily, we have to go, right now. Outside on Halverson Street, a set of headlights turned the corner. Ryan saw them through the window. He saw the shape of the vehicle behind the lights. A black SUV, long and low, moving slow. Too slow. A car driving normally at 1 in the morning on a street nobody drove on went faster than that. This one was cruising, like it was looking at numbers on doors. A second set of headlights followed it, then a third. Ryan's body did something he didn't know it could do. It went cold all at once, from his scalp to his feet, a wave of cold that was not fear exactly. It was the opposite of fear. It was the thing that happens to a parent's body when fear has nowhere left to go, when it has to turn into something useful or the parent dies. Back door, he said. You have a back door? Service stairs. They go out to the alley. Emily, move. She moved. He shifted Noah to his other hip. Noah, awake now, awake in the way kids are awake when adults are afraid, didn't say anything. He just held on. His small fingers knotted in the collar of Ryan's t-shirt. They went down the hall. Ryan grabbed his coat off the hook without stopping. He grabbed his wallet off the counter. He did not grab his keys because his keys were useless, because he had no car. At the kitchen door, the back door, the one that opened onto the service landing and the iron stairs, Ryan stopped. He looked at Emily. If I say run, you run. You don't look for me. You don't wait. You take him and you go. You hear me? Ryan, you hear me. Yes. Mrs. Esperanza, 9th Street, the yellow house with the blue door, planter on the porch, key taped underneath. Her name is Rosa. Say my name, she'll help you. Ryan, please. Say it back. Rosa. Yellow house, blue door, 9th Street. Ryan, please. I'm not. He opened the door. The service stairs were cold. The iron was cold. The wind in the alley was cold. Ryan went first down the stairs, Noah on his hip, Emily behind him. Their steps rang on the metal in a way that felt loud enough to be heard from the next block. He counted each one. 8 steps. Landing, 8 steps. Landing, 8 steps. Concrete. They hit the alley and Ryan turned left, away from the street, toward the narrow cut between the building and the chain-link fence that led to the parking lot behind the laundromat. He'd used that cut maybe 4 times in 3 years. He'd used it enough to know it came out on Halverson, a block east of his door. Behind him, Emily's breathing was ragged. In front of him, Noah was silent. At the end of the cut, Ryan stopped. He pressed his back against the brick. He held up one hand to Emily without turning around. He listened. On Halverson, an engine idled. He heard the soft, heavy sound of a car door. He heard another one. He heard a voice, low, not shouting, giving some kind of instruction. He heard 3 words clearly. First floor, Carter. Ryan's stomach did a thing it hadn't done since the night the hospital called him. He turned his head a fraction. He could see through the chain-link fence the shape of one of the SUVs parked at the curb in front of his building. 2 men standing by the passenger door. Another one on the steps, looking at the buzzers. Not police. He knew it before he could explain how. The way they stood. The way they didn't have vests. The way they didn't have a warrant in anyone's hand. The way the one on the steps wasn't buzzing anything. He was just looking at the names, like he already knew. Ryan leaned back against the brick. Emily looked up at him. Her eyes were huge. He shook his head, once, very slightly. Not yet. They waited. In his arms, Noah whispered, so quietly Ryan almost didn't hear it. Dad. Shh. Dad, I'm scared. I know, buddy. I know you are. Just for a minute, okay? Just for a minute, and then we're going to go get in Mrs. E's car, and we're going to go have an adventure. An adventure? Yeah. Like camping? Yeah, like camping. Okay. Noah pressed his face into Ryan's shoulder. At the curb, the man on the steps straightened up. He had apparently found the name. Ryan watched him turn and say something to the other two, and one of them, broad short hair, dark jacket, moved toward the building's front door. The lock on that door had been broken since before Ryan had moved in. You just pulled it. The man pulled it. He went inside. Now, Ryan breathed. He pushed off the wall. He moved, fast as he could with a kid on his hip, down the sidewalk, away from the SUVs, keeping low against the line of parked cars. Emily followed. Her breath was a high, tight sound behind him. They made it to the end of the block. They made it across 8th. They made it halfway down 9th before Ryan's legs started to shake. Not from running, but from the adrenaline wearing thin and finding nothing underneath. Mrs. Esperanza's house was on the left side of the street. Small, yellow, blue door. A porch light on. She always left it on. She had told him once that a dark porch was an invitation. There was a planter with a dead geranium in it. Ryan knelt down, still holding Noah, and fumbled under the planter with his free hand. Tape. Key. He pulled it off. He took the steps 2 at a time. He knocked, then rang the bell, then knocked again. A light came on upstairs. "Mijo," came Mrs. Esperanza's voice through the door, sleep thick and alarmed. "Mijo, is that you?" "It's me." "Rosa, open the door." She opened it. She was in a pink robe. Her gray hair was in a long braid over one shoulder. She looked at him, then at Noah, then at Emily, and her face did not do any of the things Ryan had been afraid it would do. It did not ask questions. It did not hesitate. She said, "Inside. All of you. Now." They came inside. She closed the door. She locked it. She turned the deadbolt. She pulled the chain. Then she turned to Ryan. "Who are we running from?" Ryan almost laughed. It came out as a shaky breath. It's complicated, Rosa. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for this." "Don't be sorry. Tell me who." Emily stepped forward. Her hands were trembling at her sides. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "My family," she said. "My father. He sent people." Mrs. Esperanza looked at her. She looked at her for a long moment, up and down, in the pink robe and the yellow hallway light. Then she said, "Are you a good person?" Emily blinked. I'm trying to be." "That's the only answer there is," Mrs. Esperanza said. "Everyone else is lying." She turned to Ryan. "My keys are on the hook. Take the car. Don't tell me where you're going. Don't call me from it. Drive for 3 hours. Stop somewhere I can't guess. Tomorrow you call me from a payphone. There's one at the truck stop on Route 6, the one with the blue sign. I've seen it. Call me from there at noon." "Rosa, I can't." "Mijo, I raised 4 boys in this house. I know how to be quiet when I have to be. Go." "Thank you." "Go." He went to the hook. He took the keys. At the door he stopped. "If they come here, they won't find you here. If they come here and they ask you, I don't know anything, mijo. I'm an old woman and I sleep very hard." He looked at her. He wanted to say a lot of things. He didn't have time. He nodded. He opened the door. He stepped back out into the cold. The car was a 2004 Corolla. It was gold. It had 190,000 miles on it. The radio was broken. The heater took 10 minutes to do anything. It was the most beautiful car Ryan Carter had ever been inside. He put Noah in the back seat and clicked the belt around him. Noah's eyes were huge. "Dad, where are we going?" "Camping, buddy. Like I said, we're going camping." "Is Emily coming?" Ryan looked up. Emily was in the passenger seat. She had her hands pressed flat against her knees. "Yeah, bud. Emily's coming." "Good." Ryan started the car. He sat for 1 second with his hands on the wheel, and then he pulled away from the curb, slow, normal, a regular man in a regular car in the middle of the night. They made it 4 blocks before the headlights came up behind them. Emily saw them first. She was watching the mirror. "Ryan." "I see." "Ryan." "I see." One SUV, then a second one pulling out of a side street a block back. Not fast, not flashing anything, just matching speed, following. Ryan's hands tightened on the wheel. He took a left, the SUVs took a left. He took a right, the SUVs took a right. He did not speed up. Speeding up would tell them he knew. He kept the Corolla at 30, then 25, easing toward a yellow light, and the light went red in front of him, and he stopped at it, and the SUVs stopped 2 cars behind. "Ryan?" Emily whispered. "Ryan, they're right there." "I know." "What are we going to do?" He didn't answer because he didn't know. The light turned green. He didn't move. Behind him, a horn honked. Once, then longer. Still, he didn't move. The SUV in the lane next to him pulled forward, slowly. A black glass-tinted window slid down. Ryan didn't look. He stared straight ahead at the red brake lights of the car in front of him that had now gone through the light and was 50 yards away. A voice came from the SUV, calm, polished, older. "Mr. Carter." Ryan's hands went white on the wheel. "Mr. Carter, there's no reason for this to be difficult. We know where you are. We know your son is in the car. We are not the police. We do not want anything from you. We want Miss Shaw. Please ask her to step out of the vehicle." Emily had stopped breathing. Ryan, very slowly, turned his head. The man in the passenger seat of the SUV was maybe 60. He had neat silver hair and a neatly knotted tie. His hands were folded in his lap. He looked for all the world like a banker on his way to a dinner meeting. "Step out of my car, sir," the man said pleasantly, "and no one has a bad night." From the back seat, Noah said in a small, tight voice, "Dad?" Ryan looked at Noah in the rear view. He looked at Emily. He looked at the man in the SUV. Then he rolled down his window, all the way, and he leaned his elbow on the door, and he looked the man in the eye. "My son," he said, "is 6 years old. He is in the back of this car in pajamas. He just watched 3 black SUVs pull up to his home at 1 in the morning. You're going to tell me that's a conversation that was going to end well for anybody. You're going to tell me your employer wanted it done like this. You're going to tell me that." The man blinked. It was the first human thing about him. "Mr. Carter, I'm not finished. She's a grown woman. You understand that? She's 31 years old. She's not a package. She's not a stock. You can't send men in cars at 1 in the morning to pick her up off a street like she's lost property. Whatever your boss thinks he's doing, he's not doing that. He's scaring a child, my child, in his pajamas. Mr. Carter, you are not. You want her? You ask her. You ask her in the daytime. You ask her like she's a person. And if she says no, and she will say no, because I've watched her for 11 days, and I know no when I hear it, you leave her alone. Your boss leaves her alone. All of you. You drive away from this car, and you tell him exactly what I just said." The man in the SUV was quiet for a long moment. Then he said very softly, "Mr. Carter, you're making a mistake." "Maybe. You do not know who you are speaking to." "I know exactly who I'm speaking to. I'm speaking to a man who takes a check to drive other men's daughters home." The silver-haired man's face did something then, just for a second. A tightening around the mouth, a thing that might have been, in another life, a very different man looking out from behind the tie. Then it was gone. "Step out of the vehicle, Miss Shaw," he said, not looking away from Ryan. And Emily, beside him, said in a voice that did not shake, "No." The man turned his head finally. He looked across Ryan at her. "Miss Shaw, your father, tell my father," she said, "that if he wants to speak to me, he can come to this car himself. He can roll down his own window. He can look at this man and at this child, and he can say what he has to say to my face, in the daylight, like a human being. Until he does that, I am not going anywhere." Silence. Ryan could hear his own heart. He could hear Noah breathing through his nose in the back seat, fast and small. The silver-haired man looked at Emily for a long moment. Then he reached forward. He picked up a phone from the console. He dialed a number. He lifted it to his ear. "Sir," he said, "she will not come. The father is intervening. The child is present. Advise." A pause. The man listened. His face did not change. He said, "Yes, sir." He put the phone down. He looked at Ryan. "Mr. Carter," he said, "you will hear from us again, very soon. You will regret the tone of this conversation. I am sorry for what is coming. Good night, Miss Shaw." The window went up. The SUV pulled forward, around them, through the intersection. The second SUV followed, then the third. They took the next right, and they were gone. Ryan sat at the green light with his hands on the wheel and did not move. Behind him, Noah said, "Dad?" "Yeah, buddy." "Dad, I want to go home." Ryan looked at Emily. Emily was staring at her hands. Her whole body was shaking. Her eyes were wet, but there was something else in her face now, something that hadn't been there an hour ago. She had said no. She had said no, out loud, in the world, to a man holding a phone connected to her father, and she had not taken it back. "We're going home, Bud," Ryan said. "Soon, we got to stop somewhere first." "With Emily?" "With Emily." Noah was quiet for a second. Then he said, "Emily, don't go." Emily closed her eyes. "I won't, sweetheart," she whispered. "I won't." Ryan pulled through the green light. He drove. He drove for 2 hours before he let himself breathe all the way out. The Corolla's heater finally started to work somewhere around the city limits, and by the time they'd passed the second sign for Route 6, Noah was asleep in the back seat with his cheek pressed against the door and his small mouth open. Ryan watched him in the mirror whenever he could, which was every 10 seconds, which was more than he should have been watching the mirror at 70 miles an hour on a 2-lane road in the dark. He didn't care. He was a father in a stolen car with a woman he had known for 12 days, and the only thing in his life that still felt like it had a floor under it was the shape of a 6-year-old asleep in a car seat behind him. Emily didn't speak for the first hour. She watched the road. She watched the side mirror. Every set of headlights that came up behind them, she tensed, and Ryan tensed too. And every time they passed, a pickup, a semi, a minivan with a bumper sticker about an honor student, she let out a small, uneven breath. And Ryan did too. And neither of them said anything about it. Somewhere past the second exit for a town whose name Ryan had never heard, she finally spoke. "I'm sorry." He didn't look away from the road. For what? For all of it. For knocking, for lying, for staying, for tonight. For you having to say what you said, for Noah being in this car. "I'm sorry, Ryan. I'm just sorry." Emily. "Yeah. If you apologize one more time, I am going to pull this car over and make you walk." She let out a breath that was almost a laugh. It came out shaky. "Okay." "Seriously." "Okay." They drove for another mile. Then she said quietly, "You didn't have to do that back there." "I know." "You could have told me to get out of the car." "I know." "Why didn't you?" He thought about it. He watched the yellow line on the road. He watched a deer on the shoulder turn its head as they went past, eyes catching the headlights, and then gone. "Because I already decided," he said. "I decided 12 days ago. When I opened the door and he said she looks sad, I decided. I just didn't know I'd decided." She didn't answer. "That's all," he said. She turned her face to the window. Ryan kept driving. They stopped at a motel off Route 6 around 4:30 in the morning. It was the kind of place that still took cash and didn't ask for ID if you paid a little extra. Emily gave him $300 out of the bag, and he paid for 2 nights. The woman at the desk was in her 70s and watching an infomercial on a small TV. She didn't look at either of them very hard. The room had 2 beds, thin carpet, a bathroom that smelled like old soap, and a window that faced a parking lot with 4 trucks in it. Ryan laid Noah down on the bed closest to the bathroom and took his shoes off without waking him. Emily stood in the doorway with her arms wrapped around herself, watching. "He's really out," she whispered. "He's been awake since 1. He's so quiet. In the car he was so quiet." "Yeah. Is that normal? That he's that quiet?" Ryan pulled the blanket up over Noah's shoulder. He looked at his son's face in the yellow light from the parking lot. Noah's eyelashes were long and dark against his cheek. His thumb was pressed against his lower lip the way it had been when he was 2. "No," Ryan said. "It's not." They didn't sleep much. Ryan took the other bed. Emily sat in the chair by the window for an hour with the curtain pulled to a crack, watching the lot. And then at some point, Ryan woke up to find her curled up on top of the covers on his bed, not touching him, just there, her face turned toward the wall, her breathing shallow, like a person pretending to be asleep. He didn't move. He watched the ceiling. He listened to the hum of the heater. He listened to the rigs coming in and out of the truck stop down the road. Around 7, he got up. At noon, he walked across the parking lot in borrowed sunlight to the payphone outside the truck stop, and he called Mrs. Esperanza. She picked up on the first ring. "Mijo." "They came?" "They came." "To your house?" "To my house? At 4 in the morning, 2 men, very polite, very well dressed. They asked about you. They asked about her. I told them I was an old woman and I didn't know why 2 men in suits were at my door before sunrise. Rosa, I was very convincing, mijo. I cried a little. They left. I'm so sorry. Stop saying sorry. It's ugly on you. Your car. My car is with you. I have a son in Trenton with a truck. I'll live, Ryan. Yes. The woman. Is she worth this? Ryan closed his eyes. He leaned his forehead against the cold metal of the payphone booth. I don't know, Rosa. Mijo, I don't know if she's worth it. I don't know her well enough to know that. I know she made him laugh. I know she cried when she saw my ceiling. I know tonight she said no to a man she's been afraid of her whole life, and she said it because of him, because of Noah, because I said he was scared. She didn't do it for herself, Rosa. She did it for a kid she's known for less than 2 weeks. Mrs. Esperanza was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Then maybe you already know. Maybe. Be careful, mijo. I'm trying. I love you. I love that boy. I know. Call me in 2 days, not before. Different phone, different place. Okay. And Ryan. Yeah. Whatever she decides, you let her decide it. You don't decide for her. You understand? I understand. He hung up the phone. He stood in the cold for a long time with his hand still on the receiver, and then he walked back across the lot to the motel. Emily was awake when he came in. She was sitting on the edge of the bed with her hands folded between her knees. Noah was on the floor with a napkin from the gas station, drawing a dinosaur on it with a pen from the bedside table. He looked up when Ryan came in. Dad? Hey, buddy. Emily said we could get pancakes. Did she? She said we deserve pancakes. Ryan looked at Emily over his son's head. She's right, he said. Get your shoes on. They went to a diner down the road. Noah ate 3 pancakes and an entire thing of bacon. Emily ate half a piece of toast and drank coffee and kept looking at the door every time the little bell rang. Ryan ate because his body needed him to, not because he wanted to. He watched Noah put syrup on everything, including, at one point, a slice of orange, and he did not stop him. Noah, halfway through, looked at his father very seriously and said, Dad, is camping always like this? Like what, bud? With pancakes, and a motel, and the car, and Emily. Ryan looked at Emily. Emily looked at her coffee. Sometimes, Ryan said, sometimes camping is like this. I like camping. Yeah? Yeah, can we keep camping? For a little while, buddy. Then what? Ryan didn't answer. Noah, because he was 6, let it go. He went back to his pancakes. That afternoon, back in the room, while Noah watched a kids' channel on the small TV with the sound low, Ryan and Emily sat at the small round table by the window, across from each other, and did not speak for a long time. Finally, Ryan said, You can't live in motels. I know. You've got $9,000, maybe less now. That's That's weeks, Emily. That's not a life. I know. And I've got one sick day left at work, and a kid who starts first grade in 6 months, and an apartment I can't go back to tonight, and probably not tomorrow night, and maybe not for a while. I know, Ryan. I'm not blaming you. You should. I'm not. She looked at him. She'd cried at some point that morning. In the bathroom, he thought, with the water running. Her eyes were puffy. I have to go back, she said. His chest went tight. Emily, not to him, not to the wedding, not to any of it. But I have to face him. My father. I have to look him in the face. I can't run, Ryan. I tried. I ran for 12 days and he found me in 12 days, and the next time I run, I'll have you with me, or Noah, or Rosa, or someone else, and he'll find us then too. I can't keep doing this to other people. I have to end it. He'll make you go back. He'll try. Emily, you haven't seen this kind of man up close. I've worked for men like this. Not him, but like him. At the warehouse, the owners, you don't reason with them. You don't outweight them. They don't lose. They can't lose. They don't know how. I know. So what's the plan? I go back. I tell him no in his office, in daylight. With my lawyer? I have a lawyer, my mother's lawyer. She left me one. He's been waiting for me to call him for years, and I never did. I go back with him. I tell my father in front of him that I'm not marrying the suit, that I'm not taking my seat on the board, that I'm out, that I'm signing away my share of the family trust in exchange for being left alone for the rest of my life. My mother's money, that's separate. That's mine. I can live on it. Not like I lived, but like a person, a regular person. And if he says no, he'll say no. And then I keep saying it. I say it in front of people. I say it to reporters if I have to. I burn it down, Ryan. If he won't let me walk away quietly, I don't walk away quietly. Ryan looked at her. She was sitting up very straight. Her hands on the table were steady. He had never seen her like this. He had not known this person was inside her. He wasn't sure she had. When did you figure this out? He said. Last night. In the car. When he said, step out of the vehicle, Miss Shaw, I heard his voice and I thought, I've been hearing this voice my whole life. I've been hearing men say my name like that my whole life. And I thought, if I say yes now, I'll hear it for the rest of my life. And I looked at Noah. And I thought, that boy is in pajamas in the back of a car because a man I don't know sent other men in cars to pick me up. And I said yes to that. I said yes, in a way, every time I didn't say no. I have spent 31 years saying yes without opening my mouth. She stopped. She looked at her hands. Last night I opened my mouth, she said. I can't close it again. Ryan didn't know what to say. He reached across the table. He put his hand flat on the wood, palm up, halfway between them. He didn't say anything. He just left it there. After a long moment, she put her hand on top of his. Her hand was cold. His was warm. Neither of them looked at their hands. They looked at each other. Don't come with me, she said. Emily. Don't come, Ryan. You can't come. He knows your face now. He knows Noah's. If you come into that building with me, he'll find ways. He'll have ways. Your landlord, your job, Noah's school. He'll touch everything. If I go in alone with my lawyer, I'm one problem he can make go away with paperwork. If you come, I'm a problem that comes with a family. He'll tear that family apart to get back at me. I know him, Ryan. I know exactly what he'll do. Then don't go. I have to. We'll disappear. You can't disappear. You have a son. You have a warehouse job. You have Mrs. Esperanza and a community center and a life, Ryan. You have a life. You can't disappear, and I won't let you try. Emily, let me go in alone. Let me do this the one right way, and then... She stopped. He waited. And then, she said, quieter, if I come back. If there's a me that comes back from that building, I'd like to come back here. To you. To him. If you'd still have me. Ryan's throat did a thing. If there's a you that comes back, he said, there's a place for you. I might not come back. I know. He might make it so I can't come back. Legally. Financially. He might He might do worse than that. I don't know what he'll do. I know. I'm scared, Ryan. I know you are. She pulled her hand back from his. She pressed both of her hands against her face. I don't want to go, she whispered. I know you don't. I've been here 12 days and I don't want to leave this motel room. I don't want to leave this table. I don't want to leave him. She took her hands off her face. Her eyes were red. I've been a person, Ryan, for 12 days, for the first time. I've been a person in a kitchen. I've been a person with a kid on my lap and a dinosaur with one eye. I've been a person who drinks a cup of tea for 45 minutes, and now I have to go be that other thing again, just long enough to tell it no. And I don't know if I'm strong enough to be that other thing and still remember that this person is the real one. Ryan stood up. He walked around the table. He crouched down next to her chair. He put one hand on her knee. He made her look at him. Listen, he said. Listen to me. The person who walked into that apartment 12 days ago with a leather bag, that's not a made-up person. That's you. That's the real one. The other thing, the thing your father made, that's the costume. You've been in the costume so long, you think it's your skin. It's not your skin. It comes off. And once you take it off, you don't have to put it back on. Ryan, you walk into that building. You wear the costume for 1 hour. You tell that man no in the language he taught you. You come out. You take the costume off in the parking lot. You leave it there. And you come home. Home. Wherever we are, Emily, wherever Noah is and I am, you come there. She put her forehead against his forehead. They stayed like that for a long time. Noah, from the floor, without looking away from the television, said, I'm not watching you guys, but don't be sad, okay? Emily laughed. It cracked in the middle. Okay, sweetheart, she said. Okay, Noah said. Bitte. She left 2 days later. Ryan drove her to a bus station in a town whose name he made himself memorize and then, deliberately, later, forget. He parked the Corolla 2 blocks away. He walked her to the station. Noah held her hand on one side. Ryan carried the leather bag on the other. At the doors, she knelt down in front of Noah. Buddy? Yeah. I have to go do a grown-up thing. Okay. It's going to take a little while. How long? I don't know. Noah's mouth pulled down. He didn't cry. He was trying not to. Ryan could see it. He was 6, and he was trying not to. Will you come back? Emily looked up at Ryan, just for a second, then back at Noah. I'm going to try very, very hard to come back. Do you promise? I can't promise that, sweetheart. I can promise I'll try. That's a thing I can promise. Noah thought about this. Then he said very seriously, Okay, trying counts. Emily pulled him into her chest and held him. Ryan looked at the ceiling of the bus station and pressed his lips together and did not make a sound. When she stood up, she didn't look at Ryan's face directly. Ryan, yeah. If I'm not back in 3 weeks, I'm not coming back. Emily, I mean it. If it's more than 3 weeks, something has happened. Don't come looking. Don't call anyone. You take that boy and you go live your life. Do you understand me? I understand you. Say it. 3 weeks. After that, I go. She nodded. She was breathing very carefully. Okay, she said. She stepped forward. She kissed him. It was brief. It was barely a kiss. Her mouth touched his, and her hand touched his jaw, and she was gone, through the doors, and Ryan was standing there in the cold with a 6-year-old holding his hand and a leather bag on the floor between his feet. Noah said, Dad, yeah, bud. Is she going to come back? Ryan watched the door. She's going to try, buddy. She said, trying counts. Trying counts, Noah repeated. Ryan picked up the bag. They walked back to the car. The first week was the worst. Ryan and Noah went back to the apartment on Halverson Street because there was nowhere else to go, and because Mrs. Esperanza, when he'd called her from a gas station outside of town, had said, Come home, mijo, they're not watching anymore. They got what they wanted when she walked into that building. She'd been right. The street was quiet. The SUVs did not come back. The door to the apartment was exactly as they'd left it at 1 a.m, unlocked, the lamp in the living room still on. Ryan stood in the doorway for a long time before he went in. Noah ran past him and dropped his backpack and climbed onto the couch and asked where Emily was, and Ryan sat down on the floor next to him and told him the truth in the smallest pieces a 6-year-old could hold. She had gone to talk to her dad. It was a hard talk. It was going to take a while. She had said trying counts. Noah listened. He nodded. He asked on day 3 if maybe they could call her. "We can't, bud." "Why?" "Because we don't know the number. And because if we call, it makes it harder for her." "Okay." And then, on day 5, he didn't ask. Ryan saw it happen. He saw his son decide, in the quiet way children decide things, that asking was a thing that hurt, and so he stopped. Noah didn't forget her. He still set out her chair at breakfast. He still kept the crayon drawing she'd liked on top of the stack on the fridge. But he stopped saying her name out loud because saying it out loud made his father's face do something he didn't want to be responsible for. Ryan went back to work. Doug didn't ask where he'd been. Doug just said aisle 7 and handed him the scanner. Marcus, at lunch on his first day back, looked at him across the break room table and said, "She's gone, isn't she?" "Yeah." "Clean?" "Clean." "You okay?" "No." "You will be." "Maybe." "You will. Not today, but you will." Ryan didn't answer. He finished his sandwich. The first week dragged. The second week dragged worse. He counted days without meaning to. He counted them at 4:17 when the alarm went off, and at 10 at night when he lay on the couch staring at the ceiling. 7, 8, 10, 14, 19. 19 was a Thursday. Ryan came home from work and made mac and cheese from a box, and Noah ate it in front of cartoons and fell asleep with a noodle still on his chin. Ryan carried him to bed and sat on the edge of the mattress and looked at him for a long time and thought 2 days. If she doesn't come in 2 days, she's not coming. He didn't let himself think about what came after 2 days. Day 20, he worked a double. Day 21 was a Saturday. He and Noah went to the park in the afternoon because it was warm for the first time in weeks. Unseasonable, the kind of day that fools trees into budding too early. Noah climbed the jungle gym. Ryan sat on the bench and watched him and felt the sun on his face, and he was 32 years old, and he was alone on a bench, and he thought, this is the life. This is the one you have. And he was okay with it. That surprised him. He had not expected to be okay with it. But sitting there watching his son hang upside down from a bar, he understood that Emily had done something for him even if she never came back. She had walked up to a ghost and called him a house. And once someone has done that, you can't fully be a ghost again. You can be tired. You can be sad. But you can't be invisible because you have already been seen. The seeing doesn't go away when the person does. They walked home at 5. The sun was low and orange on the buildings. When they turned the corner onto Halverson, Ryan saw her. She was sitting on the front steps of the building. She had a small duffel bag next to her. She was in jeans and a sweater he didn't recognize, and her hair was shorter, cut to her shoulders, and she was looking down the block, the other way, and she hadn't seen them yet. Ryan stopped walking. Noah looked up. Then Noah saw her too. He didn't yell. He didn't run. Noah, who ran at everything, who charged at every wave at the ocean and every stray cat and every plate of pancakes, went very still next to his father, and his small hand tightened around Ryan's fingers. "Dad." "Yeah, buddy." "Is that her?" "I think so, buddy." "Is she real?" "Let's go find out." They walked the rest of the block slowly. Emily saw them when they were about 30 feet away. She stood up. She didn't run either. She put her hands in her coat pockets like she wasn't sure what to do with them, and she waited. When they got to the bottom of the steps, nobody said anything for a second. Then Noah let go of Ryan's hand. He walked up the 3 concrete steps. He stopped in front of her. He looked up at her with his face very serious. "You came back." "I came back, sweetheart. I tried not to ask about you." "I know. I still asked in my head." "I know." "Was it a hard grown-up thing?" Emily sat down on the step so she was closer to his eye level. Her eyes were wet, but she was smiling. "Really hard, buddy." "Did you win?" She thought about it. "I didn't win," she said, "but I didn't lose either." "What's that called?" "I don't know. Getting free, maybe?" Noah nodded, the grave nod of a small philosopher, and said, "That's good." Ryan came up the steps. Emily stood up. They looked at each other. He didn't ask her what happened in the building. Not then. He'd ask later. He'd learn it in pieces over the next year. The lawyer, the 3-hour meeting in her father's office, the paperwork, the signed agreement, the half her trust she'd walked away from, the half of her mother's money she'd kept. The part where her father had said, "You'll be back," and she had said, "No, I won't," and walked out. The part where she'd spent 9 days in a cheap hotel 2 states away just to make sure no one was following her. The part where, at the end, she'd gotten on a bus because she had decided she would never again be a person who was driven somewhere. But that was all later. Right now, on the steps, he just looked at her. "You're 3 weeks minus 40 minutes, he said. "I know. I was counting. I know you were. Emily? Yeah? Your hair. I cut it myself, in a bathroom. It's uneven. I know. It's okay. It's good." She laughed. It broke in the middle, the way her laughs broke, and she put her hand over her mouth and laughed into it. And Ryan stepped forward and put his arms around her, and she put her face against his shoulder. And she cried, finally, the kind of crying she hadn't done in that office, or in that lawyer's car, or in a motel bathroom. The kind of crying a person does when they've been holding it for 3 weeks, and they are, finally, back in a place where holding it isn't required anymore. Noah wrapped his arms around both of their legs from underneath and held on. They stood like that on the steps until a neighbor came out to take the trash down and had to walk around them. They didn't get married, not that year and not the year after. Emily said she wasn't ready to sign papers in front of a man with a title for a long, long time, and Ryan said that was fine by him because the warehouse insurance was bad anyway. They moved, eventually, out of the apartment on Halverson and into a slightly bigger place 3 blocks over with a second bedroom and a scrap of backyard where Noah grew tomatoes badly. Emily got a job at a small nonprofit that helped women leave situations they'd been raised to believe they couldn't leave. She was good at it. She was good at it because when the women sat across from her and said, "I don't know how to be a person without this," she knew what to say. Ryan kept working at the warehouse for another 1.5 years. Then Marcus, who had started a small 2-truck moving business on the side, asked him if he wanted to be the third guy. Ryan said yes. The first year they barely made rent. The second year they didn't. Mrs. Esperanza came to dinner every Sunday until she couldn't anymore, and then they went to her. She lived to see Noah turn 11. She held Emily's hand at the end and told her, in Spanish, which Emily didn't speak, that she was proud of her. Emily understood it anyway. Ryan's mother called. On a Tuesday, the spring Noah was 9. She didn't apologize. She just asked how he was in a thin, careful voice. And Ryan, on the phone in the kitchen of the new apartment, with Emily at the table behind him pretending not to listen, said, "I'm okay, Mom. I'm doing okay." She came out for Noah's 10th birthday. She held him and she cried, and she did not say the things she had said 4 years before, and none of them made her. Noah grew up. He grew tall. He grew stubborn. He kept the one-eyed stuffed dinosaur until he was 14 and then put it in a box on the shelf in his closet, where, when he moved out of the house at 18, he took it with him. Ryan thought about it sometimes, late, when Emily was asleep next to him, and the house was quiet. He thought about the night he'd opened his door to a stranger. He thought about how easy it would have been to close it, how reasonable that would have been, how sensible. He thought about the fact that the best thing in his life had walked up to his door holding a leather bag, and the reason he had let her in was because his 6-year-old son had tugged on his hand and whispered she looked sad. He thought that was the whole lesson of his life, if his life had one. Not that love saves you, not that strangers are angels, not any of the big tidy things people like to say. Just this, that the world asks you, sometimes, to open a door you have every right to keep closed, and that what you think you're protecting when you keep it shut, your quiet, your safety, your ordinary tired life, is not actually what's on the other side. What's on the other side is another person, as scared as you are, who has walked a long way to get there. And the only thing that decides what happens next is whether you see them, whether you look, whether, when your kid says she looks sad, you let that count for something. Ryan Carter had been invisible for 3 years. He had opened his door to another invisible person. And both of them, in the end, had become visible to each other. Not because anything grand had happened, not because the world had rewarded them, but because they had chosen, both of them, on a Tuesday night in a tired hallway, to stop being ghosts. That was all. That was enough. And years later, when Noah was grown and sitting across from his own kid at his own kitchen table, cutting the crusts off a sandwich because the kid had declared war on crusts, he would remember, without knowing why, the way memory works, a woman sitting on a concrete step on Halverson Street at 5 o'clock on a warm Saturday, and his small hand letting go of his father's and him climbing 3 steps toward her and her eyes. He would remember that she had come back. He would remember that she had said trying counts. And he would remember most of all that the family he had grown up in was not the one he had been born into. It was the one that had been chosen, piece by piece, on porches and at kitchen tables and in a dark car at a green light, by people who had decided, against every good reason not to stay.